My name is James Steffes. I retired as an Engineman Chief, E7. I mentioned that I was on the Fresno. Then I went to a couple other commands, and then I went back there 10 years later. Well, when I got my orders, the senior chief came in and he says, I just got a CAS rep, which is a casualty repair report. He said, your ship is sitting in Subic Bay, and they were transferring fuel using a fire hose. Well, that's a no-no for a lot of reasons. JP5 just rots the hoses. So anyway, they ruptured the hoses, and the ship had regular fuel tanks and everything for the engines back when we ran diesel, and then up forward they had a separator and everything for making helicopter fuel. And the piping was designed so that you couldn't contaminate them. Well, in the years after I was on there, the Navy went from diesel to JP5, so they had the same stuff in all the tanks. So what they were trying to do was transfer, because they were going to go in the yards, transfer what was in those helicopter tanks to the back tanks so they could burn it. And they used a fire hose, and they had an oil spill, they had buoys hot and everything. So the senior chief, he says, do you think you know what they did wrong? I said, yes, I do. He said, well, go down there and be a hero. I flew to the Philippines. I got aboard there, this red-haired, freckled JG by the name of Jones, and he was like barely touching ground with his feet. And he says, I know you've been here before. You must know the answer to this. I said, yes, sir, I do. I took him down in main control. Underneath the operating station is a whole row of fuel manifolds and oil manifolds. And I said, you see that one over the corner with the chains on it and the locks? He says, yeah. I says, you unlock those, and it's a one-way manifold. You open that up, and the fuel drains from the helicopter tanks into your tanks, but you can't send it the other way. He said, oh, what were we doing? I said, sir, you didn't ask me. He went up there and told the captain. He come back and I said, where were you a month ago? So that was a magic moment, that I would go back on there 10 years later and know something that had been forgotten, and they knew it. So I went back there, I caught the ship overseas, and it's really interesting to go back to a command after that long, and you're looking through the maintenance books, and there's your signature of all the changes. You say, man, we know you somewhere. And ideas that you had as a first class, it mean nothing. You make chief, man, they're like miracle ideas. So I had a good tour on there, and I went from there to the Schenectady, which was LST 1185, and teamed up with the instructor from C School. And there were a lot of his students scattered throughout the LSTs, but the commanding officers would never let these guys work on the systems. It was designed, everything could be controlled up on the bridge, controls, shifting and everything, but they were all scared of it, so they made them do everything from down the engine room. So we were in the yards in San Pedro, and the senior chief told the captain, he said, how would you like to be a star? He says, what do you mean? He said, those ships are getting underway with 2 tugs and a pilot. How would you like to go in there on your own power? No tugs, no tower, no. He said, I love it. So as we got into the end of our yard period, and we spent a couple extra days at sea getting everything all tuned up right, we pulled into San Diego Harbor. The captain waved off the pilot, waved off the tugs, and we got to a pier. There was a ship here and a ship here. He pulled in there and parked it. Then he went over to the officers club. And of course all they want to know is, can we borrow that senior chief? So I went with the senior chief. We went over to the first ship, and the engineer and the captain were there, and they says, we want to be able to do that too. And the senior chief said, well, why don't you use the guys you have? Oh, we don't have anybody. he says, you have this guy, and this guy? I said, yeah, bring him up here, I trained him. We spent about a day and a half on each one of them. He had a bunch of little screwdrivers in the toolbox. And one by one, all them LSTs were getting on their way by themselves. And I left there. I got eligible for shore duty finally again. And they wanted me to push boots. I got eligible for shore duty finally again. And they wanted me to push boots at as a company commander in San Diego. So I went over there and went through school. So for 3 years I was a Navy's equivalent of a drill instructor. Something I never thought, you know, I would ever do. But it was a really rewarding tour. It was tough, rough hours, but it was you know, just to watch these kids turn from street kids into sailors. And when you go to USO night and the parents can't recognize their own kid, and that was pretty fantastic. I put in my papers to retire, and I had 26 years. The XO called me up and he said, do you want no ceremony, a regular ceremony, or the whole enchilada? I took the whole enchilada, which was Drum and Bugle Corps, crack rifle team, 50 state flag team. And my wife got escorted up to the top of the stairs. We read us this fancy. I had side boys, you know what those are. I had side boys. I had 12 chiefs with, as we walked down through there. My mother was there. She was really impressed.